It's Sylvain here. Welcome again to another video interview again today with Stefano from Korporatio. I think that's how he says it. So we'll go watch the previous video, so we'll see if I said it correctly or not. So we got Stefano here. So can you talk about a bit about yourself and some of your background in the space, crypto space, and business side as well?
Of course. And well, first of all, thank you for having me. And yes, the pronunciation is perfect. It's Korporatio, so good job on that. So who am I, what I've done, and so on. I'm an Italian living in Singapore. I'm a startupper. I've been doing like startups for more than 10 years, and I'm never working in a big corporation or anything like that. I entered the space of blockchain back when I was in school, thanks to like a classmate, and we were doing like a little, super little market manipulation experiment. I have a master in finance, so for us, like the economical models were very interested on that. That was like even before Ethereum was like coming for an ICO and so on. Bitcoin was what, around like $400, I think, by that time. And
I wish it was still the case today.
well, you know, like for people that enter like back in the days, I think like that it's pretty positive, the price
then,
now. But I always like keep that a little bit with an eye of like questions on a lot of things. You know, it was more like just for fun than actually like start digging into things in a better way. And then when Ethereum came along, it took me a little bit of time to understand actually the true potential. Like I wish to be like the guy I've been like, no, as soon as like I saw the white paper, it was like absolutely awesome. It was not that the case. It took me like a few months to figure out actually the potential on that.
Yeah.
And then what happened is that like I started getting like involved with like different startups in the sense of like advisoring, investing, helping out, working directly full times and so on. And unfortunately, or fortunately, it depends, because of like my educational background, I was always put in charge of being like the guy that was supposed to manage the corporate governance for the company. So talking to incorporation agents, submitting the documents, be sure that everything was being signed all at the correct time and so on. And that was like one of the most painful experience of my life. Like it's insane. To anybody that has like a private company, I think that they can rely on this. It's you have your agent that like doesn't text you, or when you're asking a thing, you need to wait like a week to get something done. And as soon as you want to have like a very little things that would take like 5 seconds to be done, they would charge you like hundreds of dollars, and you will be like, but sorry, but like it's a template on Excel. Like why are you charging me so much money?
Yeah.
And you know, like they would like basically like share whatever story they have, because like obviously they have the power. So either you pay or you don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a little bit of like a lobby type of thing. And so I got like so upset when in one specific case, the agent forgot to let me know that the company had to submit specific documents per time, and they let me know 24 hours before the deadline. And that specific companies had shareholders across the world, between Asia and Europe. And I was like, okay, it's 24 hours. We might be able to do that. I'm just going to send the electronic signature, because in Singapore, the electronic signature got allowed by law in 2014. And so that was completely possible. And the agent told me no. I was like, no, I want the physical ink. And I was like, well, first, there is a law that actually say that I can do that. But second, if I have a shareholder that is in Europe, there is no way that the documents can physically be here in 24 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened is that the company got a fine. And the agent was like, it's your responsibility. You paid that. Now, I don't know people which side of the story are going to take. But to me, when that happened, I was like, never again. And so because I was like, obviously in the blockchain, I was looking at like smart contracts and all of those stuff. I felt like, okay, wait a second. Actually, a smart contract can automate these type of things. And because you're using a wallet, your signature is basically there, because that's the entire blockchain power on that. That like, you know that there is an approval in every single action that you're doing. And so I started looking for a solution because I wanted to be a client, because I had all of these companies that I wanted to migrate, and I didn't find anything. There was nothing available in the market. And so I was like, okay, then I do that myself, and I see like where it goes.
Yeah.
And forward that on 2 years, 2.5 years, and we're here now with the company and so on.
Perfect. Yeah, great story, and it looks like you got involved in different projects as well. So and especially at that level, right, when startups, like it's never like easy, or at least it's different than oil machine that's been going for a while and stuff like that. You get different roles, you learn new things, I'm sure, and that's that sort of thing. Um, so Korporatio, what does it solve, like when it comes to problems? Like, so what is it for? What's the main objective of your company?
Sure. So we automate corporate governance in a nutshell. So what we do is that like we take a company, we create the traditional company. The entire corporate governance is managed by smart contracts, so it's all automated. And the shares of the company are tokens that sits on the Ethereum mainnet. Now, obviously, that's the question. Every single company that is doing like tokenized shares or tokenized security would have like a specific name with that, ST20, SRC20, and you name it. For us, is a super simple ERC20 tokens that is modified because obviously, because you're in security, you need to know at all the time who is the owner of that specific wallet. But basically, that thing allows you to have a sort of legal DAO, if you want to think about that in that way, where you don't have to rely on the agent for every single thing. People can simply just like with their MetaMask wallet or whatever blockchain wallet they're using, interact with the company. And the most important part, at least like for me, is the fact that like you can do things whenever and wherever you want and you are. So instead of paying like those hundreds of dollars for every single thing, you're relying just like on paying gas fees. Now, back in the days, it was cheap. Now it's probably like a little bit
Yeah.
expensive, I would say. But still, you're looking at like instead of paying like $200-$300, so paying like $4 or $5 per action. And the time, the essence of that, transferring shares from one individual to another can take up like even 6 months in some jurisdictions. In the one where we're operating, I would say that is normally like 1 week, 2 weeks max to do that.
Okay.
For us, it's really coming down to like how long is going to take the block to be verified. So 15 seconds, 16 seconds. If you want to be cheap with the gas, maybe a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
And so you combine the two things. You got the pros of the blockchain, but you also simplify the corporate governance and the company creations of private limiteds.
Yeah. Speaking of Ethereum, like gas fees, was there any impact recently in the last, let's say, couple months as the price went up? Like, was there, because what people report seems to be that, it's a huge impact. So what does it have an impact for you? Maybe not as bad as we think. What is it?
No, it's terrible.
Yeah.
It's super. It's so bad that we need to migrate. Basically,
Okay.
we're now internally discussing on like which layer 2 we need to use. To give you an example, so when the gas was like not too crazy, the
Hmm.
entire like cost of deployments for all the smart contracts involved for every single company was around between 40 and 60 USD dollars. And that was doable, like you sell the company,
Yeah.
you charge, you have like that margin that gets shrink of like those, let's say the average $50, and it's totally manageable. Now that we're start seeing like gas price that is around like 600, in some cases even 700, the cost and Ethereum price also increasing as well.
Yeah.
We're starting seeing like $2,000-$3,000 on cost
Wow.
of deployment. And
Compared
to give you
to
an
50,
idea,
50
like
to 60, right? You're saying?
yeah, from
Oof.
$50 to like 3,000, and
Wow.
when you're selling like something like I have no problems obviously like on sharing prices and so on. Our cheapest jurisdiction is Wyoming, and it costs $500 to create a company there.
Okay.
So $500, you have other costs, obviously, the government fees and so on.
Mm-hmm.
But like on your margin, you take away the $50, you're still fine. But when that margin becomes like that, the cost is like $3,000 and you sell it 500 with other costs involved as well, you're basically losing money every single time that you're getting a new client, which is the
Yeah,
worst possible feeling.
you're pretty much paying to operate essentially, and you've got no profit whatsoever, right? So
Yeah.
yeah.
So it's bad. And I been talking like with a lot of friends that are obviously like working on the Ethereum mainnet as well, having other projects and
Mm-hmm.
so on. And so far, I would say that a solid 100% of the people is looking to migrate. It's becoming absolutely impossible to do anything.
Exactly right. Because business, you need to generate some profit at some point in order to continue developing, operating, let alone right, and just kind of paying your people and so on. Yeah, it's definitely a problem. Now, since you're looking to migrate, do you have a couple options that you're looking at, or can you share that at that point, or are
Oh,
you
of
just kind of,
course. I'm also happy like going
yeah,
also on the thought process of like
yeah,
what we've done on that. So the starting point for us was obviously like trying to understand if we wanted to go like on a layer 2 or in a completely different blockchain.
okay,
And we decided to stick with layer 2 simply because like layer 2s are Ethereum virtual machines based, and therefore the
yep,
code will basically be the same. So the cost of migration will be much lower. If you're looking at like options on layer 2, you get solutions like Matic, Looprim, XDAI, Near, OMG, kind of like all of that structures around that.
EOS, yeah,
What we have done was basically like picking every single one of those, and some of them have some limitations, unfortunately, for what we are doing.
yeah,
So we are a predominant desktop solution because obviously like you're managing your company. It's rare that you would do that on a cab or on a train,
mm-hmm.
even if you can do that if you want. But I don't know, maybe you want to like kind of have a little bit of time to think about like who you're transferring shares of your entity to.
Yeah,
And so
yeah,
solutions like Matic, for example, were not ideal for us, at least, because you need like a smart wallet on your phone.
okay,
And so it's adding an extra step on the workflow, which is not very nice in general. So what we have done basically at that point was taking down a level to either using Near or using XDAI, because all the others, like from a workflow point of view, were not ideal for what we were doing.
okay,
And we have decided of actually like going with XDAI, simply because like Near will require us to change a lot of the code that we have built so far. And right now, it doesn't seem like to me that they're at that point yet where, they're on mainnet, you can get the token and so on. Like in order to start developing, you need to get in contact with the team, be approved and all of those stuff.
mm-hmm.
Maybe in a month, everything is going to be different. But at today, where we have like having this specific need,
Yeah,
for us, XDAI has been like the choice for that. And so we're migrating over there.
okay. Wow, interesting. So what's the time frame for the change? Do you have anything in place now? Are you looking to transition slowly in the next few months, or is it something?
Ideally, we want to get there by the end of the year,
Okay.
because it's really a situation where like every day we're losing money.
Yeah.
The company is growing, the number of clients is growing, and every single day you're losing more money for every single clients that you're getting. So it's a
Yeah.
little bit of like a run against time on that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, and that's like might be of interest for people that are like developing or considering something like that. We're using some solutions where, like, for example, Oraclize, which is an Oracle like Chainlink. We just like use another one, and that's
Yep.
not supported on XDAI. We're using the gas station from Portis to ensure that, like, if a user comes in and doesn't have ETH or never touched cryptos beforehand, keep in mind that like some of our clients are like 60, 65 years old. They have no idea about blockchain or how to use that, but they're interested in like saving the time and the money to managing their companies. And so you need to teach those individuals how to get a wallet and all of that stuff. So the user experience and the workflow needs to be the easiest possible thing ever. So the gas station basically allows a user to use a decentralized application without having funds inside the wallet.
Okay.
And so for first timer, they don't have to go to an exchange and buy ETH and so on. Now, the gas station is not supported on XDAI.
Okay.
And so the backbone, it's super simple to migrate. Like you can do that in 2 days because it's the same code. You really just like transfer that.
Okay. Yeah.
But because you have so many integration that are not supported, one, you need to rewrite a lot of the code. And two, you need to find solutions to the same thing that you were using before to the new layer 2. And if those things are not available, you either need to like deploy them yourself, and so build entire structures and products, new products for layer 2s, or you need to find like a solution around that it's going to be a manual process, but there is still like going to allow to have a proper workflow in place. So it's probably going to take a couple of months to get there.
Okay. What they're saying for Ethereum with the 2.0, they're saying probably November timeframe. So I don't know if that's something that you'd be, well, usually business or can't wait for stuff like that. But are you optimistic first that it's going to be there? Let's say the 2.0 in November, and second, like, is it going to be working efficiently starting there? I've got my doubts on that. Like, I don't think until next summer we'll see anything working. So what do you think about that one?
So Ethereum is
That's the tough one.
it's a tough one simply because like when 2.0 is going to be launched, is it going to happen by the end of this year? I think so. I'm still optimistic on that. However, by the end of this year, if the target is correct, we're going to see phase 0. And the only thing that phase 0 is going to allow is to stake ETH and get the yield return.
Oh, yeah.
So become a validator and all of those stuff. For a company that is like developing and working with smart contracts and so on, nothing is going to change because phase 0 doesn't allow you to deploy smart contracts on Ethereum 2.0.
Okay.
That process is going to happen only in phase 1.5. So you got 5.0, then there's going to be phase 1, and then you got phase 1.5, and then phase 2, which is the final one.
Okay.
Now we're going to see phase 0 by the end of this year, hopefully, and nothing is going to change. Then we're going to see phase 1, and again, we're not going to be allowed to do anything on that.
Yeah.
And then with phase 1.5, we're going to finally be allowed to do something. Now, how long is going to take for phase 1.5 to come in place? Unfortunately, looking at how long it's taking for phase 0, I don't know. I would actually say like maybe even a couple of years at this point.
Yeah. 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 It wouldn't be surprising. And it's just too bad, like companies like yours or even others that have so much struggles, and then they got to move on and then find something else, a different solution. Really. So I had a couple questions on there. I was like, what blockchain do you use? Because if you didn't talk about it, and then if it has affected your business. So obviously now we know that. When it comes to your current clients and the payment methods that they're using, so what options do they have in place? For them to pay you essentially for their service, right?
Sure. So we try to be as broad as possible, and ensuring that like people can really be free of picking whatever things make them comfortable. The reason behind that is one, we're a blockchain company, so it would be silly if we would not go in that path. And the second thing is also the fact that a lot of our companies are in offshore jurisdictions like Seychelles, Panama, San Vincent and the Grenadines, which and clients are coming like from everywhere in the world. Now, for people from like the Western countries, it seems crazy that you might have an issue on transferring dollars from one bank account to another, or euro from one bank account to another. But to give you an example, we got a client that is in Singapore, and he was paying us to our bank account. And so his bank, Singaporean dollars main, he converted the Singaporean dollars into USD, and he tried to pay us. The transfer got blocked. It didn't go through because his bank, because he has a working visa where he can be only an employee, was asking questions. Why are you paying an incorporation agent?
Okay.
And the guy was like, I'm actually paying for my brother's company because my brother is in the other side of the world. And so I'm helping out my brother. What do you want?
Yeah.
And the bank was like, no, we don't trust you. The payment is not going through. So, simple situations like that,
Yeah.
we need to ensure that like everybody is capable of like getting a company if they want. And so we offer obviously the classic. So wire transfer, payments with credit and debit cards directly from the website.
Yeah.
PayPal, it's still a thing apparently. So yeah, we still offer that.
Yeah.
And obviously like cryptos. So I would say that like a solid 99% of the clients choose either Bitcoin or Ethereum.
Okay.
Majority I would actually say like Ethereum more than
Okay.
BTC. There is still like that idea in my mind that like I believe that if you have BTC, you keep them. You don't use them to do stuff. While with Ethereum, because like all the ecosystem and so on, like you're used to like accumulate, using and entering and exiting things. So it's becoming more of a currency or a utility at that point.
Yeah.
But in general, like we allowed people to pay with whatever crypto they want. Like it's not available on the website, obviously, like, because like that would be a little bit complicated. For a period, we were using CoinGate, which was pretty good. But then like we removed that because like the support was not too great. The integration was buggy and so on. And
Okay.
the fees involved, we also saw that like, because majority of the people were paying like in ETH, why would you pass through a merchant where I can just like send you an address and taking that fees and that cut as well. But yeah, no, in general, like whatever currencies the user wants to use, because you cannot automatically place an order on the website with that specific currency if it's not available there.
Okay.
Just what we suggest to people is just like text us through our plugin on the website. Let us know which crypto you would like to use, and if we have a wallet, sure, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. That's great. Yeah, and obviously, banks, usually like to know, especially if you come with a huge amount of money, just bring 10K, and then they're like, "Where did you take that from? Like, is that a gift? Is that like what do you need to know? Like, it's not everyone that's doing drugs or anything like that, right? So
That's the thing.
it's
It's
just
insane. Like,
yeah,
and
that's kind of
it's not even
annoying.
like for big amounts.
Yeah,
It goes like sometimes even like for 4 digits transfer, where
yeah,
they're like, show us the invoices for that. And you're like, of course you're doing everything like legit, so it's not a problem. Like there it is, the invoice and so on.
yeah,
But there are two things on that kind of like I'm not too much of a fan of. The first one is the time, the waste of time that you need to do, like for a simple transfer of like
yep,
coming back and forth with emails, transferring documents, waiting for a reply, and all of that stuff. And then the second thing is that abuse of power that comes from there. Is that really that aspects that is like, I'm choosing a bank because the society and the system in general kind of like forced me to have a bank, because that's how you the only vehicles
yeah,
that you have, like for majority of the people around the world. And the simple fact that like, they can be like, no, you're not allowed to receive money. Or they can even go a step further and be like, you know what, I'm freezing your entire account now. And
yeah,
you're not going to touch your entire funds inside the account anymore. Now, stories like that, unfortunately, especially in our sector, are super common. And to me, it's just like, I pay the fees to the bank, I'm paying for the service.
Yep.
Then you should, like, if I'm not doing anything illegal, obviously, but I should have that freedom of like ensuring that I can sleep fine in the night, like, you know, like without having like that thoughts in the back of my mind of being like, oh, they're just gonna like freeze every single funds that I have now.
Yeah.
It's ludicrous. Crypto
Yeah,
solves
for
so
your
many troubles.
so for your business, I'm assuming you do like some sort of KYC for the customer, and then also you need to adhere to laws, right? AML and so on. Um, is using, let's say, crypto a problem at times when they look into your records and so on, or is it not an issue
I
typically?
would say that like so yeah, to answer the question in two parts. The first one, yes, every single user needs to go through KYC, MAL, PP, which is like the one for politicians and public figures and stuff
Okay.
like that. It's pretty straightforward in reality. You just like submit the copy of your passport, the proof of address, and all that stuff.
Okay.
But yes, it's a step required because bearer shares are illegal, because you always need to like know every single time who is purchasing what, who is transferring what, who is doing what, and so
Yeah.
on. So yes, that's in place. On the other side, I would say that for the type of jurisdictions where we operate in, you know, you got Wyoming, which just passed the fact that like Kraken just became a bank with the Wyoming law.
Yeah.
You got places like Panama, where they don't even have a blockchain law in place. So whatever activities you want to do with a blockchain entity, like for example, if you want to like start a decentralized exchange where you don't want people to have a KYC MAL in place, in Panama you can build that with no problems and no
Yeah.
questions asked. Seychelles, which has done amazingly during like the ICO period and so on. Singapore, which obviously like is front running on you know, regulation for blockchain and so on.
Yeah.
So we're always picking every single jurisdiction that is pro blockchain and cryptocurrencies in general. And so no, for people that are dealing with cryptos, we have never seen any issues. Where we're seeing an issue is that sometimes you might be a person from, I don't know, a country that might not be very pro cryptos. And so you come to us and you're like, I would like to set up a company, this and that. And so we are fine with that. The government from the jurisdiction where you're creating the company is fine with that. But you might have to, you know, explain the situation to the government where you're living, or like where your passport is being issued.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's a half and a half, depends on where you
Yeah,
are.
it depends. Yeah. Okay. You gotta read the fine prints and all that. Yeah.
That's true.
All right. Yeah, we were discussing other like cryptocurrency integration as payment method. Especially we discussed about SmartCash and Bitcoin Confidential. Especially because I've done a lot of videos, obviously, on that. So what's your take on adopting, say, a new cryptocurrency as payment method and so on?
I would say that is absolutely a thumbs up for that. Like
Okay.
I love that as an idea. And I was talking with like the one of the founders, or the team member of Pirate Chain like a week ago.
Okay.
And you know, when the conversation gets like to that point of like, is a privacy coin like Bitcoin Confidential, for example,
Yep.
important or not, the answer is yes. Like hands down is yes. Especially for all the things that like we just discussed and
Yep.
we're going through. Not only that, like let's say that you're from a country like Venezuela, where you're not, or China now even, where you're not even allowed to like take out your money and your capital to another country. That are completely forbidding you to do that.
Wow.
You know, if you're using something like Bitcoin or Ethereum, truth is that if a government wants to get to know how many cryptos you own, they can do that pretty easily. Because, you know, you can have like even 20 wallets and so on, but at one point you're going to connect that to one wallet that is connecting to your KYC and your identity. And at that point, it's pretty easy to just like connect all the dots.
Oh yeah.
And so privacy coins comes in place where it really protects you. You know, I'm all in for that, because it's for us, you know, like when we're talking about things like that, or the media push out informations like that, the first conversation is always like, oh, illegal things, the dark web, weapons, drugs, kids trafficking, like you name it, basically. The truth is that for few people, and more than few actually, for a lot of people around the world, those are the only solution between surviving and eating, or starving and dying. Like a lot of people don't realize how crazy in some countries the situation is.
Yeah.
And so 100%, you kidding? If they want to pay with BC, I'm all in for that. Like, just send us a message.
Yeah.
But the answer is yes, absolutely yes.
Yeah, for sure. We'll be doing more discussion on that one, for sure. And again, that privacy coin thing, I've been talking, you know, within the team, SmartCash team and Bitcoin Confidential and so on. And it's always like, you know, on one side we get the like the laws, regulations, and so on are obviously pushing most of their currencies, like the private coins, away from the big exchanges. And then on the other side, though, like other people seem to state that, you know, it's crucial to keep them, and it's going to be a hot commodity in the future, because obviously it almost acts like cash, right? So because that's what it is now. I'm sure most of the stuff that's happening in the world is still used by cash, right? So because if you come with a suitcase full of money, nobody knows where it's from, where it's going, and all that, right? So you just take that and then you do whatever business you need to do. And obviously, again, that could be, you know, the privacy coin probably covers that, right? What do you think?
I totally agree with you, especially now that we're starting seeing like a lot of countries that are considering the option of moving like fully on cashless, and moving completely through like, you know, control electronic money and those type of things.
Yeah.
Now, I always see like the argument of like, you know, we're gonna be controlled and all of this stuff. I see the arguments of like a cashless society makes you spending more money, and there are like so many different like aspects on pros and cons of going on that side. To me personally, I'm all for a cashless society because of like the speed and the easiness of doing something like that. Plus, on the other side, you know, overall, if you're kind of like meticulous with some stuff, you end up actually saving more money than what you would do with cash. Like, think about like the simple cash back from credit cards and stuff like that. Obviously, you don't want to abuse that, but if you're kind of like good in self-managing your finance, I would say that like overall you get a benefit. Now, where the problem comes in that, it's true, like, because a government can issue e-money, they will basically like be controlling everything. And, you know, it's not that we're gonna have like a person sitting behind a monitor seeing like, oh, let me see what individual X is sending money to. Nothing like that is going to happen. It's going to like be all AI and algorithms like trying to track like movements and so on. You know, you might send money to a person that has like a bad track record, and then you're going to have like questions asked. Like, where is the limit at that point of the abuse of power that can be done on that actions?
Combined with like a social ID, say like China type.
Yes.
You get like
and
a credit score, then a social score or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So when you get to that point, it's scary. Like I'm gonna be there, because like it's really like you're gonna be like always living with the back of your mind of the thing of like, if I do this, what is gonna happen? Which as some extent I think is actually good. Like, you know, don't kill people. Okay, good. If you're killing people, you're gonna be caught immediately. So you're gonna leave with thinking, I don't have to kill people, and that's fine. But if it started being like something like, oh, wait a second, if I if I cross the street where there is like no crosswalk, am I gonna receive a fine at home immediately? Like, you know, those type of behave that like we know what are the rules, but we also know that we're not following that all the time.
No, for sure, yeah.
And so for me, something like that, it becomes a part where like if we're getting in a society that is completely cashless, where like your phone becomes to be your only wallet, or your laptop, or whatever it's gonna be, you're gonna have like the side of like where your salary is coming from, like the normal money, in the same way that you would have like your bank account right now. But having that side part of like currencies that you can use without asking for questions, or having to give answers to people, or without having like that process in the back of your mind of be like, oh, wait a second, if I'm sending money to this person, like let's say that you want to buy something on eBay, and you're sending money to an individual, like what are you going to do? Ask like for the track record of the individual to ensure that he's not a criminal?
Yeah.
Like, you know, at that point, I'm like, I think that like privacy coin in the next like 15, 20 years are really going to be like a good solution for a lot of new problems that we're going to have as a society.
Yeah. Yeah, and it might be exchanged a bit more as a peer-to-peer payment then, because especially if the centralized exchanges push them away, it might be more difficult to acquire them, but there's always going to be a way to do it. So it's tough to, unless they shut down the internet, essentially.
That's true. Hopefully it's not going to happen.
Yeah,
But
hopefully not. We never know. To go back to Korporatio, in the short term, so you're dealing with some transitioning and stuff like that. Yeah, so short term to kind of medium, long term, what's the vision currently?
So short is definitely the migration. Like that's the number one thing we're totally like there. The medium term is that we're currently in talk with we're being in talk like for years at this point with a European government and a US state to kind of like launch obviously a new model of the so-called smart company, which is basically like this legal DAO that we create, but also to trying to like bring the product to the next level. And so obviously that's like the long-term vision of that. What we want to achieve is like getting to a point where we can go after the public sector, I would say, in a way that like, you know, we want to get to a point where ideally you create these companies and you have the shares of the companies of a private limited, and these shares becomes like a real commodity in the sense of like a utility on what you can do with them. Couple of things. Think if someone can just like log in and buy some securities, because they are securities at the end of the day, you know, without having to like go in that like accredited investors territory type of thing, where like, you know, I want to invest in like private companies, and think about that like more in the day-to-day type of thing. Like I'm pretty sure that like when you want to go like for breakfast and you go and get the coffee at the always the same bar, you know, if you can own a little bit of a percentage of that place, would you do that? Obviously for some people the answer is no, but to me personally I would say yes, because I like that as an idea, like, you know, building a portfolio around the things that I like, you know. I'm Italian, I like pizza, I go always to the same pizzeria in Singapore. Would I not like to buy like a little bit of shares of that company and maybe get like a return out of that? So that's one. And the second one, in the very, very long-term vision, which might take like even 5, 10, 20 years for getting there, I have no idea, but it's getting to that point where that coffee that you're buying, you can actually pay with shares.
Wow. Yeah.
And so, you know, the microtransaction aspects or the medium transaction aspects down with securities at that level. So, you know, like you want to buy a new TV. Oh, wait a second. Let me give away like some shares of my companies, and you buy that with shares. which, you know, you need to combine that obviously with financials return, financial statements, EBITDA of the company. Like it's way more complicated. But the ultimate goal to me is getting to that point where shares and of private entities becomes like so easy to transfer between individuals, and a company, setting up a company becomes like so easy that the final vision would be something where like the job, the 9 to 5 job completely disappeared, and you get to a point where like, you know, whatever idea you have, whatever dream you have over there, they're like, oh, I want to be a YouTuber, I want to be an artist, I want to be a streamer, a gamer, you know, whatever things comes to your mind, you can just like in a very, very inexpensive way set up a business entity. Ideally, having the community that is like giving you that small initial support, you know, maybe like that $5,000-$10,000 to like buy the setup or the structure, or like maybe having a course to learn that specific things and hobby that you have, and kind of like receiving that chance, the opportunity to give it a shot, to try and see if that is possible or not. That ideally where I want to bring the company at the final stage.
Yeah, that's great. Hopefully we get to see that. That'd be
Finger
awesome.
crossed.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, we never know, but yeah. If we keep doing the great work and doing the migration, I think it'll get there. So before we wrap this up, if anyone is looking for information on Korporatio, where would they go? Just to sum that up for them.
I think that the best place would be our website, which is korporatio.com. And the reason why is that like we have a pretty populated blog with a lot of like specific articles, as well as like a live chat plugin, so they can like obviously reach out directly.
Okay. Yeah.
Twitter is another place where they can reach out, which is obviously like twitter.com/Korporatio. So the names, we're lucky, nobody picked that name, so we can just like use that. You just have to learn Korporatio and nothing else. Or otherwise they can like, you know, shoot us an email directly, or we have a Discord server as well. So sometimes we have like those people that wants to like ask more high level questions. So we got, for example, like an artist that was like tokenizing his art, reselling that on OpenSea and all those stuff. And it was like, could I in theory like tokenize a company that owns, for example, like my future projects? And so you're creating kind of like a future on that, or you're tokenizing the physical painting instead of having just like the NFT that is tokenized. We got a client that owns a pretty important IP in Europe, and it was like, can I tokenize that? You know, and so like you can technically like enter in those projects and owning a little piece of an IP. You can do that with royalties, with songs, with basically like whatever things comes to your mind. And so for those conversations, I think that Discord is probably better, because like it's more it's faster as an interaction. So
exactly, more like a chat.
Those two. The website is a good place to learn in general, and Twitter or Discord for questions and so on.
Perfect. All right. So thanks for coming on the show, answering our questions, Stefano. So it was awesome. Great
pleasure.
Wish you the best for the Korporatio in the next few months, and then next few years. A lot of success, hopefully, coming up. So thanks again for coming.
Thanks to you for having me, and finger crossed that everything is gonna go for the best.
Thanks.
Take care.